Can you separate the art from the artist? There's a special kind of heartbreak reserved for when your favorite artist or entertainer turns out to be a less than perfect person. For me personally, watching my childhood heroes like Marilyn Manson or Kevin Spacey being surrounded by scandal, allegation and behind the scenes stories of complete moral collapse hit me way harder than an ordinary disappointment would have. Manson's songs were literally my moral support while growing up. And they're more than just songs for me. They are my memories and my stories and a part of my identity. These people became more than people who just produced works of art for me. They were a part of my private life. So when the person behind it gets accused of horrible allegations, the work becomes impossible to look at the same way. It starts feeling contaminated, which is why I think most of us never look at the deeper question behind the moral failing because it feels so personal to us. Because when this keeps happening, when so many beloved artists, actors, public figures end up surrounded by scandal, abuse of power, or some kind of moral collapse, perhaps the story is deeply structural and more than just a story of individual failure. Careers which reward you for fame aren't normal careers. They are built on precarity, rejection, obsession, and then for a tiny few, an absurd amount of power. And in this video, I want to try and explore what a system like this does to the psychology of people who come out as winners in this game. Chapter 1. The Economics of Asymmetric Returns. We've grown up thinking most careers are gradual, and as you get better at your work, the rewards also get better. They move in simple straight lines. You improve, you get better, you make a little more money and become a little more stable. But most art or visibility based careers don't work like that at all. Music, film, acting, comedy, content and entertainment in general are what economist Sherwin Rosen calls superstar markets. They are winner-take-all systems where a tiny number of people capture a ridiculous share of the money and the opportunities while everyone else fights for scraps. These are fundamentally careers with asymmetric returns, where you can put in years of effort with almost no reward and then suddenly get a massive payoff. This means that the road to success in careers with asymmetric returns is rarely ever a straight line. It is years of rejection, humiliation, unstable income, unstable identity, unstable self-worth, and then for a tiny few, an extreme concentration of reward, which means an excess of everything, whether it be fame, money, social access, status or influence. Full uncontrolled power and wealth. And as someone who spent his entire life fighting for his career, I wonder what would this do to someone psychologically. Imagine this, you spent a decade being ignored, constantly rejected, constantly overlooked and underpaid. And then suddenly one day, because of a massive hit or a viral moment, the world starts kneeling before you. Doors which were always locked open up for you. Do you arrive into this world as someone whose inner world has changed? I don't think so. You don't arrive into abundance and an excess of everything you ever dreamt of as a calm, secure, internally stable person. You arrive as a person who's been starving for the last decade. Think about Eminem before his total cultural dominance. Before he became a legend, he was a young man plagued by poverty and instability and the exhausting pressure of trying to force open a door that didn't want to open. This kind of career or path is more than just ambition. It's defined by the psychic pressure this person has endured for years at an end. This is what I think makes art-based careers so distorting to your own personal self-development. This is a career which asks you, can you survive for long enough being treated like you're nothing and absolutely worthless unless the market decides otherwise. And when a system does that to thousands of people only to crown a handful of people as winners, I think it does a lot more than producing just talent. It produces very specific kind of survivors. Chapter 2. The personality traits this system rewards. This is where I think things become a little dark. A system so brutal and so non-linear doesn't damage people after the success has come. It filters out all the people who can't survive it on the way up. Think about it, the odds of success in this career are absurdly bad. So the people who stay in the game the longest are not always the healthiest or the most grounded. They're often deeply psychologically warped individuals. People with enough obsession, grandiosity, shamelessness, self-belief, and appetite for risk to keep going on for long enough after most balanced people would have quit. Psychologist Morten Moshagan, who is one of the primary researchers behind the dark factor of personality, in his work on the dark core, proposes that various malevolent traits like narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism share a common core. This dark core represents the basic tendency to maximize one's own utility at the expense of others, often accompanied by justifying false beliefs. This gives language to something we already feel intuitively. that some environments reward personalities that are unusually comfortable using and abusing other people. People who treat empathy like a handicap. Does it mean that every successful artist is monstrous by default? No, absolutely not. But it does imply that some systems over-reward traits that become dangerous once power arrives. Take Caravaggio. He revolutionized painting by making biblical scenes appear raw, with ordinary faces rather than idealized beauty. But his life was full of documented violence, brawls, arrests, lawsuits, and eventually a killing that made him flee Rome. The culture rewarded the work and tolerated the chaos around him for a long time, until the violence became too serious to absorb. The unsettling possibility here is that fame operates as a filter as much as a spotlight. It keeps pulling forward the people most built for volatility, grandiosity, self-mythology, and ruthless self-preservation. And when power arrives, it turns those qualities from useful to dangerous. And this is a much less comforting idea, because this means that the problem is not what fame does to people, it's who it tends to choose. Chapter 3. What scarcity and volatility do to the nervous system. But let's say someone was not dark to begin with. They just wanted to share their work. Then what would long periods of so much scarcity and volatility do to their nervous system? This is where I think the conversation becomes even more interesting. Researchers like Sandil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir have shown that scarcity and poverty change the way the mind works. You are constantly in survival mode. Your attention gets narrower. Your thinking gets more urgent. And trauma researchers like Bessel van der Kolk have shown that the body can keep carrying that sense of danger long after the physical danger has passed. So imagine what an artistic life does to a person over a course of time. Years of rejection, no financial net, constant comparison, and no stable sense of identity. It can turn a normal, well-balanced human being into someone who is hyper-vigilant and always insecure, with a deeply fractured sense of self-worth. So when success finally comes, the body of the person who has lived like that for years doesn't suddenly just learn how to smell the roses and become wise. It often stays stuck in survival mode and always on the lookout for danger. This is why I feel people who are successful or have gone through systems which have deeply asymmetric returns never seem to be happy. They seem deeply afflicted with paranoia, possessiveness, and an inability to trust people. This is why I feel success often fails to calm people who have climbed out of the system. They come out on the other end, deeply broken and still in survival mode. Chapter 4. More than a moral question. I think the deeper issue is not whether we can separate the art from the artist, but why is it that we as a culture keep developing creative systems with such extreme rewards that they attract people who want far more than just expression and artistic integrity. That is why the Harvey Weinstein or the Diddy case mattered far more than them as people. They exposed a system of insulation, a world where power, access, fear and dependency warped everyone around them. The point was not that just one person behaved monstrously. The point was that entire institutions were built who learned to hang around them and tolerate their behavior rather than confront it. When artistic success comes with such unimaginable asymmetric rewards, such as an excess of money, power, status, access, insulation, and godlike worship, I doubt that this field is attracting people who only want to make beautiful things. In fact, the people who only want to make beautiful things would have quit halfway through. More than that, I think it's the type of career that attracts psychopaths. People who want control, people who want domination, and people who want attention and love in a way that no ordinary human being can actually get. Because if the artistic life was more stable, more dignified, and less brutally winner-take-it-all, more people would enter it simply because they wanted to make good work, share it, and live a good life. And our culture would be shaped far lesser by people chasing godlike returns. So the issue here is not just the artists and the people in power who have clearly done heinous things. It is also us, and why do we love worshipping people so much? Why are we so addicted to worship and in creating gods out of mortal men? We take someone's simple act of creating something and pile on so much power, meaning, status, and fantasy onto them that the work stops being just work. It starts to function like a throne. And once art becomes a throne, we should not be surprised when the person sitting on it begins to believe that they are more than human. I think we should be way more suspicious of any system that turns art into a lottery for power. Because once art becomes a path to immunity, the field does not fill with just artists. It fills with people who are hungry for the kind of rewards that poison everything and everyone around them. If you stayed for so long, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in a comment if you think we can separate the art from the artist. If you like the work I do here, Please click join on the community memberships below and help support the channel. As a musician myself, here's a song I made recently that I'm really proud of and I would love for you to hear. And if you prefer more of these talking head style of videos, here's a video that I think you might like. If you liked or felt anything, please leave a comment. I would love to connect with you.